I mean, you said we're not in control anyway. I mean, is that something? I know you've kind of been a life adventure, it seems like, on what little I know about you. Is that something you've picked up on along the way or found out for yourself, or how's that?
Absolutely. That every time I have a plan, there was an old saying, man plans and God laughs. Every time you have a plan, an attachment, a need, a desire, you get hung up. And even if one goes good, then then you double it, you put twice your money onto the table, and eventually the house is going to win, the house being maybe divinity, the house being just fairness, just our best self, our best expression is that it isn't that getting our own way is good for a while, but after a while, that's not the goal. It's easy to get your way, but what you want is you want to be happy. And so that's not about getting your way. It's about letting go of your agenda.
So you're saying in order to be happy, letting go is how you become happy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that because then whatever happens, then it's groovy. Whatever happens,
Yeah.
But other than that, then you're attached. And if you get 6, then you want 12. And if it's really good, then you want great. I mean, where does it stop? Have you ever found it stop? I never found it to stop. So
I mean,
I just stopped the game.
I mean, if you have a set plan in mind, I would think, and you're going down a certain road and something happens and you veer off a little bit to the left or right, and it doesn't go your way, then yeah, it could be a good thing it didn't go that way, or it could be a bad thing. But I guess as long as you still continue down the journey and go into I guess if you do have an ultimate goal in mind, I mean, you'll still get there. Maybe not the plan you had, but correct? Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, but I mean, the goal doesn't have to be, the goal is just to be on the road. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be fancy restaurant. It could be fast foods, it could be pump your own gas. It could be, we'll give it to you for free. It could be whatever is on the road. But the thing is that if you have a need for it to be a certain way, then you're going to get hung up. And so I found that by just constant surrender to what is, that whatever comes is really groovy. I mean, it's like, it's not just okay, it's like fabulous, because it's like, oh, I didn't think of that. And then you say, well, does anything bad happen to you? Well, I mean, I don't get my way all the time. I mean, I remember coming back from India one year and being sick for 2 months. That wasn't my plan. But the thing is that it taught me about surrender, to let go of all agenda, that God loved me so much that I got so sick. Hepatitis A, not a big deal. You can't take any pills for it.
Oh,
and you just have to rest and stop driving. And it was like, the best darn thing that happened to me is just a couple of years ago, that in the process of wanting to surrender, I couldn't move, and I had to surrender. And it's like, it almost makes me cry to think of that's, to me, that's love. That's giving you what you need. It's the parent who gives you what you need, even though it's not easy for them. It knows that it's better for you.
Is that you think that's maybe what's wrong with, I don't want to say it's what's completely wrong with the world today, or maybe society or culture, but we're all, most people are set on one ultimate goal. And, if they don't get to that ultimate goal, whether you, like you said, a fancy restaurant, and they have to, steal a fast food and pump their own gas, that, they get deterred, they automatically think of themselves as a failure, and they don't tend to go for their goals anymore. And that we put these stuff on a high pedestal, and if you don't reach it, then you're just basically doomed and gloomed.
Well, that's a stage. And, that's not a very pleasant stage, because you can't win that game.
Sure.
So yeah, there are a lot of people that are stuck in that. There are a lot of people who have let that go, also, that they see through that. And the podcast world is filled with those people. on both sides of the mic, on both sides of the mic. It's in fact it's part of the ceremony, is that I have turned over a new leaf, whatever that leaf is. It doesn't mean it's going to be my ultimate leaf, but it's just a new leaf, and right now it looks like, wow, I've really found it. But the thing is, for me, 50 years on the spiritual path, I've let go of that, because as soon as you think you found it, you'll never get there.
50 years on a spiritual path. I mean, was there something
Yes.
that led you onto this path, or did you just start it one day?
Well, I think it was just the need. I think it was a need to, 1970s, you don't look very old, but 68 was a terrible year. The riots with the Vietnam War and the Democratic election and Nixon. I don't want to get politics, but it was just crappy time. It wasn't that much different than 2020, but without a COVID thing,
Yeah,
but the chaos was kind of similar. And so I had ups and downs in my life. I wasn't very old, but I had ups and downs. I mean, I was newly out of college, so I was on my own. And I moved to California. When I got here, I started going to metaphysical bookstores. And I can't tell you how or why. It was, you walk on the street, oh, there's an interesting bookstore. I mean, bookstores existed, back then. We went to bookstores. That's
sure.
how we got, the whole Earth catalog. Did you ever hear about that?
No,
Stuart Brand and the Whole Earth catalog, that was before computers, and it was like, we're all gonna go back to the land movement. You probably heard about that. And
yeah,
Woodstock, back to the land. And we're
sure.
and we're gonna so the Whole Earth catalog was all the tools that you needed. It was a updatable sort of a reference guide. It was sort of like a Sears catalog, but it was all groovy stuff that was like cutting edge in terms of how to get shovels and how to get your water drinkable and
Okay.
how to, tents and sleeping bags and all this stuff. The Whole Earth catalog, pre-computers, way pre-computers. And it was like revolutionary. Is here that here's the textbook of how we're going to get and all the things that we need to live the earthbound life, the organic farming and back to the land. Earth Day started out of that.
For sure.
50 ways. There was a famous book called 50 Ways to recycling or to save the world. I forget. It was a very catchy title, and they came up with a lot of them. But the original 50 ways that you could start recycling, that you be conscious about this, that you do that. I mean, it looks like, I suppose if you read it now, it'd be kind of funny because it's like 50 years old, or more. But it was like revolutionary. I mean, that was like, wow, we could save the planet. 50 ways that we could save the planet. It was huge.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, but it seems like we don't really have a guy like that nowadays. When with the topics, and we don't have to go down, like you said, politics and climate control and all that stuff. But people, I feel like they want a guide. They want something to say, hey, this is how you get from point A to point B, and show them the way instead of maybe go explore on their own. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying?
Well, it does, but the thing is that you have that already.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just quiet the mind in order to be able to tune into the intuition in your gut. You've got that. You see a girl, or a guy, and you get a feeling, and so that's it. You just have to follow it, and sometimes it's from the heart, but it's really the head, and sometimes it's from the heart, but it's really the gut, and you got to learn to distinguish the wants and the desires from just the intuition that it's the right thing. So we have the guide in the inside, but yes, of course, we look outside ourselves for books and resources until we can find out that we have it on our own. So I started going to metaphysical bookstores and started buying books and reading them, and it turned into a lifetime achievement award. Who knew?
Nice. I want to ask you about that, but I also want, you just said you got to quiet the mind, and I kind of feel like I might know the answer to this, but is it through meditation? Is that what you're saying? Quiet the mind, or?
Well, I would say, yeah, meditation, and I would say meditative techniques that don't have to be actual sitting meditation. Just observing, just observing, to get into the role of the witness of your life. I call it getting out of the movie of your life when you're on the screen and it's all about you and everybody's, you, and then you kind of get into the audience. You're kind of at a party and it's very festive and it gets a little crazy and you're kind of, I don't know whether you've been working, you're kind of tired and you sit down and you're just watching and you go, these are some crazy people. You're just looking at that scene and you were part of it. And so I just use that as an example at the party to get the
Right,
idea
right.
that you get a perspective. You get your best friend gets hurt, in a relationship, and you watch and see the pain that they go through, and you're watching that. But now the goal is to watch your own drama, is to be in the drama, and also or watching it happen, having it happen, and also watching it at the same time. And why is that? Because then you have an ability as the observer to be able to adjust the controls, to turn down some of the emotion and to turn up some of the love and trust, and turn down the emotion and the hate and the anger and the fear. That's how you do it. And so you can call it meditation, you can call it mindfulness, you can just call it just observing. But the idea is that you have to kind of get a little control. And I said, we started this, there is no control, but the fact is that we just have to be a little bit more perceptive. And the thing is, we don't have any control, because in this minute, if I remember, that doesn't mean anything about this moment. Like this one I'm remembering, but oh, now this one I've forgotten. And so it's transitory, and that's just part of it. And the idea is you keep coming back to it.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's sweet place.
humans seem to be in such a rush nowadays, with technology and screens and just so much information coming at them. It's almost information overload. And, one thing I've actually been learning with myself is trying to learn to take a step back and meditate, and maybe only for like 10 minutes a day or whatever. And it's just like you're saying, get quiet, find myself again, reflect, reset the batteries, and get going again. But even if I don't do that, I just take a drive down the road and, you said
Yes.
take control and like turn off all my music and everything and just drive.
Yeah,
Even
yeah, that's right. And you can just be in nature. Stop the car
yeah,
and just be in nature.
get out of the
Sit by by an orchard, or sit by a field, and you can sit there looking at it like you own it. Like you're the Yellowstone Ranch. And
way.
you're looking out on your Virginia field there, and it's beautiful. And the hay, the grass is blowing in the wind. You don't have to own it in order to stand there and enjoy it and feel like it's yours,
Yeah, I'll even turn my
in that
phone off.
moment.
Yeah, I'll turn my phone off for even, 20, 30 minutes. I'm learning to do that and to even go longer. And it's just so nice just not to be distracted for at least 20 minutes. And like I said, it just helps my brain to have, just reset. And, even if I'm, stressed out about something or thinking about something, it's like, okay, I got it now. We can move along now. I'm feeling better.
Well, that you're doing it. That's it, Chris. That's it. And so the idea is that you just make that sort of the thing. It's a little bit like if you go vegetarian or you go healthy, and it's like,
Mhm.
rather than the junky stuff being the main part, like the junky stuff only comes, maybe less often, and then maybe even less often, and then maybe it's weekly rather than daily. And it's a transition. And so, but nobody's got a stopwatch. The only stopwatch is your mind. Nobody's timing you. Nobody's saying, there may be something in your heads that says, I'm doing good, or good boy, like it's a dog, good boy, patting me on my head.
Right, right.
You ate good today. That's not, I mean, that's story. But the thing is that you just, the fact is you do it because you feel better, because at 20 you don't care, and at 30 you start reading and listening, and at 40 you start caring, because your body starts breaking down, and all of the nifty ego stuff you had going, they're not working so well anymore. The empty relationships isn't working, and the overworking at the job isn't working, the lack of appreciation in your life, and the tensions and the stress, it doesn't work anymore. And so you have to, 40s and 50s, you got to start taking care of yourself, and living healthier.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. When people, it seems like, as I have a growth mindset, I feel like. And so when, my morals and values continually change over time, and it's just because, I picked up new information and I've learned a new way of doing something. But it's kind of what you just said earlier. I don't immediately attack it right there, but do it in increments, if I want to even just try. And I like to challenge myself too, just to see if, I am able to do something. If I can, I went without caffeine for a month, and that was kind of tough for me at first, because, I'm one of these coffee guys every morning. But I feel like things like that, you're saying, like, growing, getting older and learning your ways and learning new morals and values, but also that if you do these challenges, I'm not saying go run a 10K or anything, but if you do keep yourself challenged, mind, body, and spirit, or however you want to say it, I think it might be a key to longevity,
Yeah, happiness, if not longevity. And I think happiness is part of longevity. But congratulations, that's really wonderful. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm not much of a caffeine person myself. I don't think I've never had a cup of coffee. I haven't needed it.
Well, that's great. Well,
but the thing is that I imagine that you really learned a lot about yourself, especially those first couple of days.
Yeah,
I mean, just the lesson you learned, doing it for a month, besides what's good for your body, I bet that was huge.
Yeah, I mean, you learned. I think it was one of these things that I felt like, society or culture says, oh, you need coffee every morning. It was just part of the lifestyle, I guess. But after the first week or two, it's kind of like, my body adjusts, or whatever you want to say. And it's like, oh, I had energy levels, I was waking up fine. I didn't need coffee, and
Yeah.
it was, but I don't know what happened or what, but I mean, it was just one of those things that, okay, I found out that I don't really need it. And I mean, I'm back on it, but I've learned to drink less of it, which I don't know if it's just because it's just
that's
so
beautiful.
easy. Yeah, everywhere I go though, it's just, coffee. There's coffee shops everywhere I go, and that's so easy just to grab, and it's just easy to go out with friends. Let's go grab a cup of coffee. It's just like a lifestyle and culture thing. But yeah, I know that I can do without it. But yeah, your body, I don't know, like I said, it adjusts. You have energy levels. You feel fine, or I do anyway. Now, it might be a different experience for somebody else, but for my experience, it was great.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, more and better. Beautiful.
Exactly. So, but I want to let's circle back. I mean, what was this lifetime achievement award that you got?
The Lifetime Achievement Award I got is that I realized that I'm loved, that I am loved.
Yeah.
That's the Lifetime Achievement Award, and nobody gave me an award. I'm not talking
Oh,
about
I
that.
thought
It's
that's what
the
you meant.
it's the sum total of my it's the sum total of 50 years on the path, dedicating myself uh, to uh, to values that are beyond me, not personal goals, but spiritual goals, and higher planes of understanding, and more joy. That the reward is the experience itself.
Yeah. I mean,
that
these experiences
that
teach
you
us a lot about ourselves, and I feel there's some people who are afraid to take some experiences or take a chance. And like we've been talking about, if you take these chances and you fail, okay, but you learn something from it, and the next time you do, you can.
Yeah. So I don't like that. There's no failing. There's not achieving, maybe, but there's no failing, because what do they say? Was it Edison, tried to make electricity 2,000 times or something, and
Learned like
it's
2,000.
just part of the nature of it, is that you learn. There's no this. It's only cultural that there's this stigma on not achieving a goal. That's the uncivilized part of civilization, as far as I'm concerned. The fact is that you try, and you will succeed, and the success, to me, isn't necessarily about the succeeding. It's about the trying.
Yeah. I mean, you can learn just, I mean, it takes a lot of guts just to try anymore. I feel like,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, because nobody wants to look like a fool when they do something, especially when it's your first time doing it,
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to be careful that you look like a fool doing something, not doing something.
yeah.
Like or either way, you can look like a fool. It just yeah. What can you do? Other than
Yeah, you
just
just
let go and surrender to what is.
yeah, that's just it. This, don't worry about your ego, to put everything aside. If you fail, or like you said, there's no failure. But if you learn not how to do something, then learn from that, keep moving forward. That's what it is. I mean, that's all it is. Just keep
Yeah,
showing up and doing the work, and keep showing up to whatever and it doesn't matter what your goal is or whatever, but that's how it is. You got
guaranteed, if you tried to start 3 different podcasts, your third one will be better than your first one.
already. I mean, that's what, I've been telling my friends here that they go back and look at my very first episode. I mean, it's probably, I like, for a better word, but just a dumpster fire, and just that.
Yeah.
But that's what, and that's how I learn is this, I learn from doing things. I learn from, talking with people like yourself and learning from your walk of life, and like, hey, what did you do? What was your challenges? What did you overcome? It's like, ooh, I like what he did. That makes sense. And then but you just keep, you keep showing up, you keep doing it. And like I said, you look like a fool the first few episodes or the second or third podcast, whatever. And and it turns into something, it could be just,
that's it.
Yeah. It could just blossom. You plant a seed and you hope that something grows from it,
That's it. Yeah. Alchemy, something from nothing.
Exactly.
It's the way of the world, something from nothing. That's what we call magic, is something from nothing that you give it a try, and you put your intent into it, and you put some energy into it, and then you have something, and you have a wonderful experience of not only a podcast and listeners. You have something that you wanted to achieve. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing that, I'm not the smartest guy by any means, but I've picked up a few things along my life experience and my life path. And, one of them was listening to podcasts, and, then I was like, well, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I got a few things to share out there. And if not, no worries. At least I tried and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, but it's also a lot of fun for me to actually just sit down and have conversations like this, like tonight that we're doing, just because, without doing this, I would have never probably, if odds are, I would have probably never met you and been able to talk to you tonight, like this.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah. I used to say this around 20 or 25 podcasts under my belt. I used to say, I have no idea why I do this. And I still don't have a really clear idea, but I feel like I'm gonna, like, I've done 50 now, and like that time is over. I'm still doing them, but it's not like it was. And whatever it served me, which for me, I think it was more about branding. It was about listening to myself. It was putting myself in this opportunity to have absolutely no idea what I'm going to say, and just to let it come out, and just to hear my own voice, like we were saying, getting into the audience.
Mm-hmm.
just to have that experience. What I was feeling fairly recently is that need is over, but the need was to put myself out there and do 50 podcasts, and share with people for whatever happens. It doesn't have to have a goal, or reach a number of people, or to have a certain return. It was only in the doing that it was. And I've gotten some clients, and I met some really wonderful people from it. I mean, the podcasters at the top of the list, but some listeners too. But the thing is that ultimately for me, it was just about the doing of it, and that is my blessing, is just to feel the present with someone for a half hour, an hour. Is beautiful.
Yeah,
a mind meld here, Spock.
There you go. Yeah, you just said it. Just when I start doing these things, I don't really I got a general idea of kind of some talking points of what I want to go over, but for the most part, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth next, and I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth next. And it's like a little dance we're doing. We're just kind of feeding off each other. And sometimes, when I go back and listen to these, I'm like, oh yeah, we talked about that. I can't even, and I get caught. Yeah. And I like it because, if we start exploring topics and talk about goals and success, like I get my thoughts out loud, and I can learn how I want to say them, even if it's not as much detail as what I think I'm doing. But it's like, okay, I'm learning to say it better for the next one, and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's cool. It's a cool way. I like it.
And I think that's it. That's what I ended up getting. It wasn't. It was some comfortableness with this medium and being interviewed or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was what did I have to say? And I didn't take any notes. But I sure have a lot more of me out there. It's really nice. It's a nice accomplishment. And it was never about getting anything in return. It was only about giving.
Yeah, and that's the whole, part of the reason why I started this. I didn't, ever plan on making money off of it or anything, but it was just, something I thought me and my friends could do and just kind of mess around with, during the pandemic, and,
Yeah.
be able to talk to each other and, have these long form conversations where we're able to express our thoughts and get them out the way that we want them, instead of just somebody taking a 5-minute clip of something. And it's like, well, that's not really what I meant. I was actually trying to have this long form conversation and have a good thought, out of it. And like we said earlier, and something grew from it, and just, yeah. And I don't know if we're missing that connection anymore, just because with,
No, that was going to just say that.
Okay, you're right.
Long form. Yeah, I was just going to say that this long form is kind of interesting, because I think that's, why all of a sudden podcasting, and why are people, they're listening. I need to be a painter. I need to be a yoga teacher. I need to be a musician. I need to be a podcaster. I mean, why that? There's men and women all over the world. I've had all over the world, people are picking up, I'm going to be a podcaster. So why? Is maybe because I think you've hit on something, is that we don't have a long form, that while there are, of course, podcasts that are very, very short,
Sure.
that most of it gives you a chance to actually sit down and actually have a conversation and get to a place, not necessarily as a particular goal, but just to interact. And I enjoy that. It's like I have the clients, and then I have the podcast, and it's like, it's not that different. Sure, one pays me, and one of them is shorter, but the interaction is still the one-on-one, and it's still a depth. And of course, the subject is different, rather than the modalities I'm sharing with a client versus, having a discussion or waiting to hear, the questions, however it goes. It's more freeform, but still the bonding and the connection is the joy. The joy of it is the same in either case.
Yeah, and I think people are getting tired of those 5-minute clips on the news, and just, this here. I don't know if it's all negativity. I try not, but it's probably the majority of it seems to be negativity, just getting their news from, whatever source, whether it be Fox News, CNN, or whatever. But when you could actually get news in a long form, thought out process, and if it's interesting and something you want to hear, that's, I think, why people were starting to tend more to the podcast, it seems like. And that, and almost everybody has a podcast. So if you have somebody that you really enjoy listening to, you can actually sit down and listen to their actual thoughts, rather than the 2 or 3 minute clip that somebody put together and forget about it. But yeah, there's something to it. There's a magic, like you said, I think, to it now, especially when you build that bond and human connection with somebody.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I'm now thinking to go back to the whole, the 50 greatest recycling methods. This book that was so popular 50 years ago is this whole idea of we started natural food stores, and we started eating organically, and we started being conscious about the way that we lived, that if you took off your glasses, your eyes would get better. That if you wore your glasses all the time, your eyes would get worse.
Yeah.
And so we were starting to get to a place where we were realizing that, as much as the young people may be surprised by this, but like 50 years ago, we were starting to realize that we were losing control. And it was probably 40 and 50 years before me, they were realizing it, They weren't dummies either. They knew that they were starting to lose control, by the way that the society was going, the world was going. And I don't even mean government, but just the inventions and the speeding up life and the car, that car must have changed people's lives. But anyways, the point was is that 50 years ago we were starting to redefine our life. And so now podcasting comes up. It's a interesting idea that you can take that radio station and you can just have it in your home,
Exactly.
and you don't need to be licensed, and you can, whoever wants to listen can listen, and if people don't want to listen, they don't listen, and you can just tune in. You can kind of hear it on the grapevine, or you can actually find out the podcast and listen to it directly, and whenever you want. No need for it to be time sensitive at all.
Yeah, you just touched on this a little bit. Do you think there was something to, older civilizations like the Romans and Greek and the Mayans, and I mean, they all were thriving civilizations, but they ended up falling, and it was because they lost control, you think, and it was just something. And we don't really have to go down this road, but it's kind of fun to think about. Just
Well,
and
I have some history. I'm a history buff
oh,
in
okay, nice.
myself. I would say that they served their time. Like anything that they had a form, like I don't know, like if, when you were college age, you might have been kind of a drinker guy
Oh
and
yeah,
kind of
I was a
fast food and kind of just picking up stereotypes,
no,
and maybe that doesn't work for you so much right now. Maybe you can't even, with the COVID, you can't even imagine sitting in a bar, or
exactly.
maybe occasionally, but it's not about the drinking. But the point is that that served you for a while, and
Sure.
and now it doesn't serve you. And so government service for a while, they have a structure and they have a shelf life. As strange as that may sound, I mean, planets have a shelf life too. They say that the solar system will end, that the sun is actually moving closer to us. The moon is moving further away, and the sun is actually moving closer to us. Not that it's going to happen tomorrow, but
Right.
eventually all the planets are going to burn up in the sun, because it's going to pull in on itself. It's a very slow process. It's millions and millions of years, but statistically the sun is actually, we're moving closer to the sun every year, and the moon is moving further away.
I don't know a lot about astrology here, but I mean, I might be butchering this theory, but I have heard, like, isn't that kind of part of the Big Bang theory? It just eventually just keeps happening over and over, and have you heard this before?
Well, yeah, I don't know that that's astrology. It's more
Okay.
astronomy, but
Okay.
yes, I would
All right.
think that that's part of it. Is that, on the galactic level, planets come and go, that solar systems come and go, that they blow up into a black hole, and then they form up again. Like the storms. The hurricanes. You get the hurricanes through there. The hurricanes. They're just ill winds that start circulating on themselves, and they build themselves up to a storm, and then after the storm there's blue sky and quiet. And this is nature. The thing is that nature's ways are reflected in our human life, like, so much. And it's like, I consider that the second concept. The first concept I consider is that when we saw the cycles of the sun, light to day, we called that a day, and then the moon, light to dark to light, we called that a month, and then cold to hot to cold, we called that a year. That's the first concept. And then the second concept is that we can do better than nature, and like that was, we're still wiping the mud off our shoes from that one. That we, nature's pretty good on its own and doesn't actually need us. And in fact, nature is part of who we are, and that we can learn an awful lot from nature when we just get into the natural cycles. And so I take a lot of things down to the natural cycles. That you say civilizations, the civilizations or governments, that they have a time frame. Well, forests have a time frame, deserts have a time frame, mountains have a time frame, storms have a time frame.
How did you get involved in astrology? Is that something you've always had an interest in, or what?
Well, I went to the bookstore and there were astrology books there, and I started reading them. I was mathematical as a child.
Nice.
And I can't tell you 50 plus years ago what the thought was when I picked up the first astrology book, but I would say that it was, ooh, this looks interesting. There was never a doubt about believing in astrology, but there's always been a lot of doubt about the rules of astrology. That a lot of it is conditioned. That there is no good or bad. That there are that everything is here to support us. And while it may be more challenging, some people's charts are definitely more challenging than others. But even the people who have no challenges are challenged by the challenge of no challenges.
Are you
What
when you
does that
say
look like? That looks like disengaging from your life.
when you say that everything's here is here to support us? Are you saying like almost everything is connected? As far as like the food we eat, the bacteria inside ourselves is using that food, and all the
Yeah,
plants
the
outside.
leaves drop off the tree to protect the tree because it would freeze in the winter if the leaves are on the tree, on the trees that they drop from, because the sap would be at the edge of the tree. So the leaves die off, and then the sap falls to the bottom of the tree, and then the tree gets through the winter, and then the leaves dissolve, and they feed the tree. This is cosmic intelligence. So the whole system is this is the way this system works, is that it just works because it's efficient, because it just has a natural flow that leaves drop and leaves grow and leaves feed. It's just what they do. It's what they're here for.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, even that's not only that. I mean, how do animals know how to survive? How like ducks or geese fly south to the winter. I mean, no, I don't think nobody ever taught them that. And yeah,
No.
or I didn't. I know that. So yeah, but
And some of them, many of them use the the moon and the astrologicals in order to plot their course. Birds plot. I don't remember whether it's the North Star or the moon, but they plot by the stars.
I was getting ready to say that. I mean, that makes more sense. But I forgot where I was getting this from. But somebody was saying that birds and stuff can see actually like magnetic fields and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, and that was part of like how they actually can travel thousands of miles. And
yeah. Those dumb little birds. They're not as smart as us to ignore that ability.
yeah,
They kind of stuck in that ability where we have that ability, but we're more evolved, so we're not stuck in it. We don't want to use it. We can get a compass. We can check our phone. Why do we have to figure that out ourselves?
Well, yeah. I mean, and then and talking about civilizations and stuff. I mean, if you go back, I mean, how the pyramids are still a great mystery, and even aren't they lined up with the stars or something in some form?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
like
they're
how do they do
lined
that?
up. They just the exactness they're built with. We can't do that today.
No, and it's like, yeah, without the tools and technology, how do they do that? It's
Yeah, they didn't have the tools and technology, and us with our tools and technology, we not only don't know how they did it, we couldn't do it.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, even the smartest guys on the planet can't figure it out. It seems like, but it just would like to know exactly what was going on then. Like why did they line them up with those certain stars? I mean, what was the thing behind it? That's a cool
Well, I think
mystery.
I think, I mean, yeah. So if you're asking me, what I think it is that the stars. I think that stars have power. I think that they have that. Whoa, how shall I call it? That like pi 1.3.1416.
Meaning,
I mean, that's got an intelligence, and the 1.61, that's the horn, that kind of goes in a spiral. It's got an intelligence in it that the numerical, the numerical, how we define it numerically as has an intelligence to it that that we have to honor. And when we don't honor it, that's when we're not honoring nature. And so that intelligence is a teacher. And so they lined up these things as a remembrance, as a perhaps a memento, but as a tool for us to find those same places, like Stonehenge.
yeah, okay.
Same that they were lined up based on astronomical positions.
What? So you think this because of the power of the stars or something, that was like why civilizations were so like lining up these structures just with these certain positions, just because they knew there was some kind of maybe power far out there, you know?
Yeah, so it's not the power of the stars, it's the mathematical connection.
Okay.
And so it's the pure mathematical connection that has a perfection to it, that going back to the sun and the moon, I was going to say this before, interesting, here we are again, is that you know, the sun is that the moon is 250,000 miles from us.
Okay.
The moon is 250,000 miles from us, and the sun is 93,000 miles from us. But right now, they are the same size in the sky. Now, if that doesn't blow you away,
I was getting ready to
I
say,
don't know what will.
how was that? Because
Because they have reached a sense of perfection that at this particular moment, now maybe in 1.5 million years, the sun is going to be particularly bigger in the sky because it's going to be that much closer. I don't know. It may be that it doesn't have to move very much in order for us to be too close to the sun. But the thing is that somehow, that when you look at the sun and the moon, that they are the same size as the sky, it totally blows my mind.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I just never would have put that together. Just based on what little facts I do know. I mean, I'm not as big in astrology as you are by any means, but yeah, just based on I guess what little things I hear here and there is just like,
So the thing is that with the 250,000 miles and 93 million miles, let's round it up to 100 million. So the moon is, so the sun is 4 million. No, wait a minute. 100 million. So the moon is four uh 4 million times, if I get my math right, 4 million times bigger, smaller. The moon is 4 million times smaller than the sun.
okay.
For it to be that far apart, but yet the same size, you know?
Yeah.
So if you put an object here and you put an object there, if they look the same size, they have to be different size.
Oh, so it's like, that certain perspective when you put things far away, and I see what you're saying now.
Yeah, that it's
now
the
I'm with
sun is so far away, but it's so big that, son of a gun, if it isn't the same size as the moon. I mean, what are the chances of that?
I'm with you now on how it's working. Okay, it took me a minute. That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, yeah, like that whole spatial and depth thing. Just I don't look at that stuff anymore. But that's I remember hearing that now somewhere. I don't know if it was a college course or even before that, but just how those things equal up like that. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, I would have never put that together. Huh. Do you think?
Well, I mean that, yeah. Well, I mean, we studied. I mean, I saw that in astrology and astronomy. That, I mean, they'd say there's some power here. By the way, the moon and the sun are the same size in the sky, and you tell me that astrology doesn't have any power. I'm saying, get a life. There's some power up there. Whether if you want to say I don't understand it, then I say, I'm not saying you're saying that. But I'm saying, if people want to say, well, I don't understand it, then I'll say, well, great. Yeah, you don't understand it. But to say that there's no power there. There was a famous teacher that said that, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. The fact is that the stars don't need your belief in order to be true. That they don't need your belief in order to affect us.
Sure. Well, I mean, in playing devil's advocate, though, I mean, that's what a lot of people think astrology is not real. Is that what you're kind of?
Absolutely. Yeah, they don't. I I mostly run into people that believe in it, but yeah, of course there are people that don't believe in it, and that's fine. There are things that I don't believe in. So we're all human. But the thing is that it doesn't. Your belief does not change whether it's true or not. It only changes your belief in it, whether you believe it or not, and whether you use it as a resource or a guide for you. But I like to talk about Venus. I don't want to get into this too far, but I like to talk about Venus because everybody loves Venus. It's so romantic and so beautiful up there. But the thing is that it's white because it's all cloud cover. It's the hottest planet. It's 800 degrees there. Mercury, which is closer to the sun, doesn't have any atmosphere, and actually Venus is much hotter. Venus has got 93 times the density of Earth, which means that if you weighed 100 pounds here, you'd be 9,300 pounds there, which would be pretty difficult.
I'd say.
It got hit by a meteor, which means that it reversed its orbit, and so the sun rises in the west and sets in the east.
Wow.
So get a hold of that. It rises in the west and sets in the east. And here's the last kicker, is that its year is shorter than its day. So in other words, it circles the sun in 225 days.
Yeah.
But its orbit around itself, and it's about the same size as the Earth. It's 242 days.
Wow. Okay. I never would have known that. Wow.
So you'd have the big business there would be the year calendar, not the day calendar, because the day is longer. You'd have to keep track of the year, and then you'd go, oh, well, we'll just add 18 more days, and that'll be a day. It's like, talk about a difficult place.
Well, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, do you think that humans will ever make Mars civilized and live on it? Or do you think that's...
boy, I never thought about that one, Chris.
Is that down the road?
Sure. Yeah, if they want to, they will. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
why not? I mean, we got across the oceans. We we got to the top of the mountains. There's garbage everywhere now. Why not go to the next one?
I don't know.
Absolutely.
I know there's some people trying, with Elon Musk and SpaceX, I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but yeah, I mean, there's always a chance, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, I think there's definitely a chance. I mean, we weren't thinking about the moon at all, and then boop, they were on the moon.
Yeah.
We think, I mean, so it was incredible, I mean, it came out of nowhere.
A lot of people still believe or don't believe that.
Yeah, and I don't believe or disbelieve it. I don't really care. But the thing is that well, if we could do it, if we could do the moon, we could certainly do Mars. If in fact that's what we want to do. It's a big trip. But to save the Earth, to move to Mars, I think that's a little Hollywood. I don't know. Maybe that'll happen. I think that's a little Hollywood.
What do you?
But
I mean, it's very Hollywood. I mean, all you do is see it in movies, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. There's a chance.
Maybe that will happen. Who knows? I mean, we're just at the beginning of an explosion of possibilities here. Just the stuff I've seen in my lifetime is unbelievable, and 50 years more times 50 years. You can't imagine it at all.
Yeah. I mean, I've been asking people, about podcasts and stuff, obviously, but what is going to be the next thing in 10 years? I mean, is this podcast still going to be around? Is there going to be a news form of, if you want to say entertainment, gather your news or whatever that people are going to be gravitating to,
Well, there'll be a new form. We just don't know what it was. Exactly. Again, I've gone through 45s and 30. What was the we had the 45s, we had the 33, the albums. I think we had a larger one that was kind of going out when I got started, but we had the 33s and the 45s, and then we had 8-track, and then we had cassettes, and then we had reel to reel. I used to do reel to reel when I was a kid. And then we had cassettes, and then we had the tape, the videotapes. They were monsters. And then the DVDs and the CDs, and now it's just bump. You don't have anything. It's
all streaming now. So yeah,
yeah. So I mean, that's everything will go like that. I have no doubt. And is it good or bad? I have no idea. It's neither good nor bad in its own self. It's all good in its own self. Will it be used in bad ways? Undoubtedly. Almost
That's,
everything has been used in bad ways.
that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. I mean, you can, I like to say that, no matter what, if you have a hammer, most people could build a house with it, or they could go and just, tear down a house with it or whatever. So yeah, there's good and bad to everything, but it just depends on, I guess, what your
Yeah,
goal.
you can, with a hammer, you can either build a house or you can break your thumb. I
Exactly.
mean, the choice
Exactly.
is yours.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a matter of what you want to do with it. But it does seem like, that's the one thing that's always pretty consistent, is that we're, still touching on civilizations here, that we're always trying to make things better and better and better. And we don't know where to stop, or even if there is a stopping point, I mean, do we need a new 2022 Camaro every year? I mean, could we just make one every other year? I mean, why do we always have to have a new car every year? And I'm a car guy. I like cars. Don't get me wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the question is, I think, from what you just said, the question is what is better? Is that we learn that better isn't necessarily more, that better can be status quo. That can be better.
Ooh, okay.
And that we put a morality on what we do, that right now we don't have a lot of morality around what we do, morality or sense of ethics, that like, the discussion of the nuclear bomb, we can make it, but is it morally right? And I'm not saying that it is or it isn't. I'm just saying those type of discussions. But there comes a question of, is that we wasting resources, going back to ecology and recycling, that we wasting resources and wasting opportunities, and that we have a finite resources on the planet, and maybe we decide that they're, maybe rather than building a home for everybody, maybe, two people have to live in a home, or something.
Interesting.
And maybe that's just more economical and more reasonable, that you have to pick up and get a family. It can be unrelated people, but you kind of have to live together and share the resources, and have long form conversations at home. And while you might say, well, that's pretty radical, and that may be, and I'm not advocating for it. I hadn't thought about it until this moment, but the idea being that may be a better way to live, that it's more economical, and in that better, that there's more freedom, even if there isn't as much more overriding freedom, because we can live better longer, rather than living for the moment and going to extremes.
Is that what or more older civilizations did anyway, but they just kind of lived all together and just supported each other like that, rather than always everybody's got to have their own house and stuff like that? I mean,
yeah, I think there are civilizations that still kind of do that.
yeah,
In India, you move in with the husband's family. So it's a terrible system for the ladies, but because the mother says, I got somebody now I can direct to do all my work, like the stepmother, not the mother, the mother-in-law retires, and the daughter takes over. It's a killer position, but I mean, that's the way it works. But yeah, absolutely.
yeah. I think even in Italy, it's still kind of customary for entire families to live together. And and going back on COVID, that was kind of a reason why COVID got so bad over in Italy, just because everybody was always packed in together. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I can see your point, that's maybe, I don't know where the world's going to go, and obviously in 10, 20 years, but if that's what people have to do, I think, humans can easily adapt and make the best of it. I mean, I don't necessarily think there might be a need for it, but yeah, I mean, if that's what people got to do, I think in order to survive, then yeah, I mean, that's what you got to do,
Hey, I wanted to tell you this story if I can. It's not very long, but it's a little bit longer. So there's this book. There's a book written in the 1950s about on the Kalahari Desert, the 50,000-year-old cultures that were living still naturally back in the 1950s. In this book, Turnbull, I think was the fellow's name, a British guy, that he went to live with them, and he was down there for a while enough that he got in good with them. And so it's really an interesting book. It's basically about the Aboriginal type of society living at that level, 50,000 year old, but now the modern world comes in and experiences it. So there's this one story that I like, that he got invited. So he had a gun and he had the truck that they didn't know anything about. This was a civilization that their 7-Eleven was that they would take eggshells and they would put water in them. Egg. They would get the egg out of it. They had a technique to get the egg out, but not crack the shell.
Okay.
And they would use it as canteens. They would put them around the desert. And so because they lived in desert in South Africa, in Southern Africa, and so when they got hungry, when they got thirsty, walking around, they could go to the 7-Eleven and they could dig up and know where people had buried eggs with water in them so that they could kind of get a drink on the way. That's the level that they lived at. Okay. So they're going on the big hunt. And so he's going with them on the big hunt, and they blow dart the animal with poison, and they spend 2 or 3 days chasing this animal. Okay. And eventually the animal collapses and they get it up on the truck. And the guy, the British guy, is so happy. He's going to go back to we're going to go back to the village and we're going to tell him we got the big hunt. We got the animal. So he's so excited, in his naivety, he's saying, I'm going to really, and I say, I'm really going to show them something, sure. And so he gets back to the village. They get back to the village, and just before he gets to the village, he hears singing. And what are they singing? They're singing the big kill song, They Already Know.
They already know it.
They already know. And it's not Facebook. It's not Messenger. This wasn't a digital phone. It wasn't Telegraph. Right. They already knew because they could just feel it.
Wow. Talk about a human connection right there and some energy.
50,000-year-old primitives. And this modern guy is thinking they're going to be so happy to know that we got the kill. And they're already singing the big kill song.
They're already getting hyped up for it. That's just wild, man. Just stuff like that. It's hard. I mean, there's you can't explain it, or I can't. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, you can explain it because the fact is that that's what you can do naturally. I mean, when you let go, then you're just tuned into it's just in the wind, and it's just obvious. And those guys hadn't lost that connection.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I was just thinking of, with that said, that, I've met a few strangers in my lifetime that, you immediately just have some kind of a connection,
Absolutely.
and you start bonding, and you don't really know, nothing about, or not anything about one another, but there's something there that it's like, hey, and you just have a full blown conversation, or, do something cool together. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I don't know what it goes to. Maybe tribal.
So I call that we can have the attitude of that only what we see exists. Wow. And that's like a really small way to look at life.
Sure. That's really looking at it very narrow-minded.
Because because we only see a very small part. In fact, when you look at the spectrum, the whole spectrum of waves, where the visible part is, nothing compared with the whole thing. It's a very small part. So what we see, but basically to be really small-minded is to just believe what you see, and not to let things that you feel and that appear, but you don't see with the eyes, to have some truth.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Yeah. That's one thing that I've been, learning on here, is that you guys be open-minded when doing these podcasts too, is that, I didn't know exactly, I said earlier, I didn't know what you were going to be able to, or saying on here, and you didn't know what I was going to say on here, but when doing these conversations like this, and even in the world today, not only this, you have to be more open-minded, and just be able to listen to what people are seeing and take things in and understand, like, just because things might be one way, well, they also could be another way,
Absolutely. And I think that the lack of open-mindedness is, in fact, the cure is open-mindedness, and we're going to move there. I don't know when, I don't know how, but at some point people will just like realize that recycling is a good idea, and being conscious of what you consume is a good idea, and not being wasteful is a good idea. People being open-minded is a good idea, because the system is that when you're closed-minded, then you suffer, and
Yep.
if you don't want to suffer, the way out is to be open-minded.
I know we're getting short on time here, but I wanted to ask you about. I saw you do some work with enneagrams.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about that. Is it the test or the personality test?
Yes, the Enneagram of Personality. You can take a test, and there are nine. Enneagram is actually from Greek. It means nine-sided figure, and so the teaching says it's about 60 years old, and it says that there are nine personality types. That these are the nine personality types. They are the archetypes, and that one of them is at our core, and it is a lens that we use to navigate life.
Yeah, I did. I did one of the tests maybe a year ago. I was, hanging out with this girl, and she wanted me to do it and see what.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so I did it
yeah, of
for her.
course.
And,
Yeah.
and when I saw it that you were kind of had a background in it, I was like, oh, I'll ask him about it. I was a one.
A one.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. You were very open minded. I thought maybe you were a seven like me, but a one is the perfectionist.
Yep. Yeah, that's what.
Okay. So you need things to be done the right way. So
Yeah.
I say, how do you know what the right way is?
Well, that's one thing I'm learning is that we were talking about earlier with guides and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I guess the right way is whatever I was taught, whatever to do. But I'm also able. I
Yeah,
always
you make it up.
Yeah, and I feel well, not always, but I feel like that. I'm able to learn. Hey, if there is a better way to do something, I mean, I'm really would like to sit down and learn that, right? And then that's the right way. I mean, there's probably 14 million different ways to build a house or whatever, but what is the
Yeah.
exact correct way? Well, everyone's got their own methods. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is that it's not so much about building a house, but it's a way of building up. It's a way of finding security, and that people around you, the perfectionists, that they do things in the right way. And as you say, it's arbitrary. It depends on what your needs are. That one way, I use it a lot with the ladies in the kitchen, that this meal that you need to cut vegetables this way, and this meal you need to cut vegetables that way, and this dish needs to be washed this way, and this dish needs to be washed that way. And so there's a right way. And when they're in the kitchen and they're a little triggered, then they really get up on that, and it's like a stickler, and when they're relaxed, then it doesn't really matter. And so that's the thing, is this right way becomes a tool that you use, like a lightsaber,
yeah,
Star Wars,
Star Wars.
it's like I'm gonna I'm gonna hit you with the lightsaber if you don't do it the right way,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would probably say that, but yeah, that's just. I mean, I feel like I've, even with my line of work, we've always done. It's called, like, there's another one called Strengths Finder, and it tells you like your five major strengths, and yeah, no, so I've always like learned, or not really learned, but like doing those little things like that, just cause it's like, that does make sense, I guess, about me. I mean, I could see that because I can relate to them, just like we just said.
Well, well, the thing about Enneagram is that it can be a psychological tool, and it can be, she's typing you a little bit and wondering how you are, and it's light and it's fun, and you can kind of get into some of the what we call the negative side. It's not that it's negative, but it plays out in a higher vibration way and a lower vibration way. But the thing is that it's also an incredible spiritual tool, because it'll help you to get back to the moment. That the psychology doesn't have really an end game, but the in spiritual realm we have an end game, which is to get back to the moment. It's to get out of all the stories. And the Enneagram is a way to to understand our particular stories, the strategies that we use to navigate life, that are different per Enneagram number. They're numbered 1 through 9. There's no hierarchy, but there are strategies, and when we can undo all those strategies, then we have the opportunity to live in the moment, and in the moment, then we don't suffer, we don't have pain, we're just happy with whatever's there. So that's the way I've used it. I've been working with it more than 20 years.
I think that was beautifully said, and I think we should take it home on that, is living in the moment, and there's no suffering, and end this on a good note. How about that?
Absolutely.
So, if you want to plug anything, if people want to find you and all that good stuff, where do they do that at?
So I have a website, indrarinzler.com, all one word. You can check me out there and read about what I do, and read about me, I suppose, is on there. And then if you want to ask a question, you can, or comment, you can write me at indrarinzler@gmail.com. I offer your guests two free opportunities. You don't get that every day. And so one is, I'll send you the free Enneagram test, and you can find out your number, and you can find out what you are, and you can learn about it for your next dating situation if you want.
Sure.
So that you can just write me and ask for the test. And number two is, I'll send you your Vedic astrology chart. So I need you to send me your birth date, time, and place.
Okay.
And ask me for the astrology chart, and I'll send you the chart. It's not a reading, it's the chart, and I'll give you enough information. I'll give you a little bit of a reading, very little, and then I'll tell you how to figure out what the chart means.
Okay.
How to read it, so then you can go off on your own. But if anybody's interested in it, it's shaped a little bit differently than the Western chart. It's 24 degrees difference, because in Vedic astrology we use sidereal time. It's 24 degrees previously. So if you think you're a Leo sun, there's a good chance you're a Cancer sun. And if you're interested in exploring that, I'm happy to send you the chart. Just email me.
That sounds great. Yeah. I wrote that as a note, so I'll make sure I'll get back to you on that for sure. But again,
okay, good.
Thank you for doing this. This was a great conversation. I appreciate you sharing your stuff with me.
Hey, Chris, I'm really happy that you reached out, and that you listened to your a podcast or two. I mean, a part of a podcast or two, and yesterday, and I thought, well, this is an easy guy, so I didn't really listen to very much, because I could just feel that it's going to go where it's going to go. And then interestingly, I want to share this. Then interestingly, today I listened to another one, and I couldn't tell whether you were the guest, it was the guest talking, or you.
Yeah.
It was so back and forth that I wasn't sure which one you are, and it didn't really matter to me. It just was part of it.
That's how I want these, is that it doesn't matter who's the host, who's the guest. It's good conversation, letting it flow. It's not an interview type style, but yeah, that's perfectly how I want these. Just two people sitting down having a chat,
Yeah, and that's the way it came out. And so, congratulations on that. Is that the best vibe for a podcast? Have no idea and don't care, but it's yours. Exactly. And congratulations on doing it so that it comes through loud and clear. That's beautiful.
Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that a lot. So. Okay. Anything else you want to say before we call this a night?
No.
Cool.
Love you all, and do that. You're doing the best you can. Just keep on. It gets better. I mean, it's really hard right now, and the only way out is within. Is that you got to let go of all of the outside noise. You've got to turn out the noise and tune into what's going on the inside. It's all there. I mean, how to boy and girl know what to do when they get together. Somehow we learn to be parents, and we learn to be teachers, and we learn to be workers, and we learn to do laundry and iron shirts. We learn it all, and just let it happen. It's beautiful. It's an incredible life. Is just a gift. There's no other way to say it.
It is. Yeah, and that's great. So thank you again. Thank you. All right, folks.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Folks, we're out of here. Take care.